Greetings all. My name is Shania Lancaster and these are the members of my group. Konisha Aunt, Marissa Johnson, Liana Leacock, TQ John, Amira Benjamin, Jefflyn Charles, Okila Husbands, Jasmine Duke, and Kenisha Jills. In this video, we will be looking at the impact of Creolese on language art instruction. To start off my discussion, I would like to define what is Creolese. Creolese is a language that has evolved from the mixture of two or more languages and has become the first language of a group. For example, Guyana. Creolese is the mother language of Guyana. The impact of Creole on language art instruction. Creolese is Guyana's mother language. Thus, most, if not all, of the primary learners speak mainly or only Creolese. Teachers will most likely give instruction in standard English. Therefore, it will be a bit difficult for children to understand what the teacher is saying because they are accustomed to speaking Creolese. Speaking Creolese alone can cause children not to understand the instructions the teacher gave. For example, sketch a picture of the main theme of the story. Now, a child speaking Creolese alone or a child that only understands Creolese might not understand what the teacher is saying. Now, if she says, draw a picture of the story, he or she might then understand that the teacher is telling him or her to draw or sketch a picture of the story. Creolese influence the way children interpret messages that are written in standard English. It can also influence the way children speak and write.
Greetings all. My name is Jefflyn Charles and I will be telling you a little about the impact of Creolese in language art instruction. Creolese is a part of our culture's identity. And in Guyana, there are three aspects of Creolese. There's the Bassolet, Mosselet, and Acrolet. The Bassolet is a more organic way of speaking Creolese, while the Mosselet is a mixture of Creolese and Standard English, an equal amount of each. And the Acrolet is more of Standard English with a few words of Creolese in between. Now, the impact of Creolese in language art instruction is tremendous. It says here that language art instruction is a particularly important area in teachers' education that focuses on the teaching of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. With that being said, let's look at an example. A learner entering the classroom for the first time, he or she is bringing his or her own culture to the classroom, meaning the way in which they speak, communicate, and interpret information. That teacher now has to change or develop that child's communication skills, interpretation skills, meaning moving that child away from his or her culture of speaking Creolese, depending on the area in which he or she came from and the type of Creolese he or she speaks, to a more standard English. Of the educational systems in our modernized society.
My name is Kenisha Jokes, and I will be talking about the impact Creoles have on language art instructions. Language art instructions is the foundation of communication through listening, speaking, reading, and writing, which helps with the development of using standard English in order to communicate an idea. Creole language is formed by a combination of two or more languages. With that being said, Creole language changes the communication and interpretation of words that are used in standard English.
Good evening to you all. My name is Marissa Johnson and I will be explaining one impact Creoles have on language art instruction. Now, language art instruction is a combination of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. In terms of writing, for instance, let's say a child from the Berbice area who speaks and writes Creoles language migrate to Linden will most likely to start or finish school in Linden. That class teacher in which that child is being placed at, the teacher will help that child to develop a writing skill in which us learned or write as in standard English. So that Barbie child will most likely say me as in MIH, my head have been hot, or so on. That child will now have to write my as in standard English. And that's an impact of freely have on language art instruction.
Good day, everyone. My name is Liana Lika, and I will be speaking about the impact of Creolese on language art. Now, Creolese impact language art because that is the first language a child is exposed to. The first language a child is exposed to is Creolese. So when they're out in the classroom and then introduced to language art, then it's a little confusing because they're accustomed to the Creole. Because Creole is different from language art in a way, but it's still a language that we speak in Guyana. So, Creole and language art. Now, if a child is mostly accustomed to Creole, it will take a time for them to fully get into the language art. And that will impact the language art because the language art helps them in their writing and speaking. And Creole, it's a form of, you can say, it's broken English. Creole, the words are not as they're pronounced, it's just like a Latin form. So, the first thing is that the impact of Creole on language art starts with the children, and that is the major impact. Because if the child first knowledge is Creole, then it will take a time for them to move further to language art, which will help them further in future.
Greetings all, my name is Kanisha Hunt and I'll be talking a little bit on how Creolese can impact language arts instruction. We all know that the stigmatization of students' home language in school could be one of the reasons for failure. And such, the idea of stopping the rejection of children's mother tongue in the school environment could at least lead to the lessening of culture shock experienced by some children when they first arrive at school, and the feeling of alienation this often engenders. If children do not feel at home in school, some of them will soon reject it, and it will simultaneously set up a block against learning.
Good afternoon, Miss. My name is Jasmine Duke, and today I will be discussing what is Creolese and an impact it has on language art. Firstly, what is Creolese? Creolese is a shortened form of words. Example, we may say sometimes, how you do. Instead, in the English way, we say, how are you? However, according to the dictionary, a Creole language, or simply Creole, is a stable, natural language that develops from the simplifying and mixing of different language at a fairly sudden point of time. So it's basically saying it's a shortened way of saying words, as I used just now. How you do? Instead of saying how are you, they say how you do. Now we know what is Creolese. Creolese have some impacts on language art, but I will be only talking about one impact it has. And Creolese has a positive impact on language art, which is it helps to simplify the concepts that are being taught to children. Example, we know in our in certain parts of our world, or even in Guyana, certain children speak different ways. As I was given an example, how are you? Some people will say, how you do. The East Indian descendants, you would mostly hear them using these things. And if you go to them using these big words like how are you and all these nice kind words you would normally use in language art, they wouldn't understand. So sometimes we will have to use simple words, which is creoles, for them to understand. We may say sometimes asekome, or we been down by the market. It means one thing, but we just use it in a simpler way for them to understand. That's why we say creoles impact language art in a positive way by simplifying the concept being taught to the children.
A pleasant good day to you all. My name is Amira Benjamin, and today I will be discussing the impact of creoles on language art instruction. Creole languages are the product of multilingual situation that arises when a person needs to communicate but do not have a common language by which to do so. This could happen in two ways. In situation of brief contact, such as in trading situation, the person could create a temporary on-the-spot language to facilitate immediate business needs.